Hey everyone, I'm Denise and I'll be talking about my persuasive speech. Unlike most universities, ODU funds various types of scholarly pursuits that are funded by sponsors. The research facility at ODU uses a process whereby facilities and administrative costs are calculated when supporting a research project. These costs include salaries for workers and necessary supplies and equipment to accomplish a project. Which brings me to the maglev development project. ODU is the current leading maglev research institution in the nation. Although this statement seems remarkable, ODU took on a huge responsibility that it could not fulfill. As advanced as it seems, maglev development project would have negative effects in the ODU community. This proposal would benefit the community because it would prevent traffic, maintain tuition fees, and avoid power outages. As a student of ODU, I proposed that the maglev development project should be discontinued because of the safety and environmental issues and complications it would cause in the future. The maglev train, a magnetic levitated vehicle, was built to carry students from one end of the campus to another. The system glides on an electromagnetic cushion atop an elevated guideway. This means that it lacks wheels, which eliminates physical contact with the guideway. It can travel as fast as 500 kilometers per hour and uses 30% less energy than normal trains. Since the train barely touches its tracks, it requires little maintenance. Although this is the case, ODU is running low on funding for the maglev research. ODU took a lead and a commitment when Amtrak turned over the research to us. Unfortunately, ODU has not been successful in getting the system to work smoothly. The maglev poses a plethora of problems. The project is not operational and has not been seriously worked on since 2006. Next, there are some evidence that the project is too expensive. The cost to fund the track alone would be $11 million. The cost per vehicle is $4 million each, which we would need at least two. Currently, there's a $7 million gap in funding just for research. Lastly, there have been major hindrances on this project due to the reasons stated above. We have had to partner with another company because the budget of $14 million is too low for us to continue. Ultimately, the project has been idle and untouched for about 9 years, and the prototype failed. High-speed maglev trains provide competitive journey rides to automobile and air transport, but it comes along with potential adverse noise impacts. This train produces high noise levels that may affect the health and well-being of nearby residents. Noise characteristics were tested on 12 listeners, measuring the train's annoyance levels based on various sound fragments. Its results show that annoyance levels caused by the maglev train were higher than intercity trains. Although this test presents limitations since the sample size was small and the noise characteristics were just a recording. Nevertheless, the test shows that respondents will be affected by noise impacts as years progress. The implementation of these high-speed transportations has its environmental rebound effects. Traditionally, the concept of rebound effect is associated with energy use. With the daily energy consumption that the maglev train will expend, comes the potential cost of power outages across ODU campus. It's uncommon to the community to experience power outages every once in a while, but actually recently we just experienced one in the library. With the addition of a high-speed transportation arises complications with energy consumption. Economically, students of ODU will be the target of the maglev transportation. It is uncommon for students that another form of transportation is already being provided at ODU, called the Monarch Loop. This transportation is included in students' tuition fees as transportation fees. Whether the student uses the Monarch Loop or not, he or she is required to pay the fee. With the addition of the maglev transportation comes the increase of transportation fees, which in turn increase tuition fees. In reality, the maglev transportation only has two stops, Powhatan and Hampton Boulevard. For example, if a student comes from Kaufman Mall and needs to get to Ted Constant, he or she would have to go all the way to Powhatan to ride the maglev train. This scenario shows that the maglev transportation is not very accessible to students at all times. My research study would include surveys, consultations with professionals, and future research on previous other failures of the maglev transportation. It would conduct a survey on and off campus students to see how many students would use the transportation. Also, this survey would include responses from listeners measuring the train's annoyance levels based on noise characteristics. Next, I would consult research sponsors and facilities and inquire how much more expenses and time it will take to complete the project. This would help with future estimates of budget and production costs for other developmental projects at ODU. Additionally, I would inquire with engineers if there are other technicalities that concern the maglev. This would hopefully lessen the project's complications in the future. And lastly, I would research on previous maglev transportation failures to improve its development, so recurrence of these failures will be out of the question. In conclusion, the project has low funding because of its depleting budget. ODU Research Facility has had to sell parts and scraps of the material to receive upwards of $10 million of funding for the project. The maglev trains constantly fail its test runs, which means money is constantly being spent and it's not going anywhere. The project has safety concerns because it can produce high noise levels that may impact students, commuters, and nearby students. Additionally, with its advanced technology, the maglev train would require high maintenance. Maintaining the field constant would require a lot of energy that would result to higher expenses. Lastly, there is no alternative motive power in the event of prolonged power outage. The plan is to sell the project to a different institution. We will benefit hugely as a community and a university. Being in the economic state we are in, we could not afford to fund the project even if we wanted to. And if we use cost sharing, it would still not work. There is no doubt that the maglev is environmentally friendly and adaptable to the urban environment of Norfolk, but students do not need it as much as other students in huge college campuses. Ultimately, the continuation of the maglev development project can affect students, commuters, and nearby residents negatively with its safety issues, environmental issues, and complications in the future. If the construction of the guideway were to put to a halt, then this would prevent more traffic in Hampton Boulevard. Also, if the project were to end, then transportation fees would remain the same, and so will tuition fees. It is impossible to say how much more money and time it would take to complete the project. The transportation itself could also cause power outages across campus if certain energy consumptions are exceeded. To improve Old Dominion's research facilities, research sponsors need to address indirect costs clearly in their research proposals. While these costs are acknowledged, they are not always readily understood through sponsored agreements. Ultimately, the research facility will benefit due to the funding that ODU will be able to keep and use for other research projects. Thank you.